And welcome back to the concert. Nope. Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show. I'm your host, Jay White. If you didn't know, this is the Late Night Show podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Song's not playing anymore. I think I've figured it out. I had to export the songs on GarageBand. Episode, 39? Yep, 39 of Late Night Lately. We're talking about all things late night this week, as opposed to usually what we don't. I just finished watching all the late night shows except for Colbert. You know, I gotta tell you, I have a tough time watching Colbert now. It's just unfunny to me. Although you know what, it's just because he has to make such a broad show. But I'm so glad he has a cookbook with his wife. That's very nice. That's very sweet. And it seems like it's a joy, mostly because they've been hawking it all week long. Just kidding. What happened this weekend late night? It was now that we're back. Everybody's new seasons have started. We've all returned to this wheel of late night. Now we're getting good guests. I'm not saying that there weren't good guests before, but now we're getting good guests. After Midnight had a very good week, and they mixed it up. They had the Paul Fahey and who else? Excuse me. God, Jesus. Now the Taylor Ortega, I believe that's her name. And if you can hear it, they're coming by. And Aiden Mineri, I don't want to get her name wrong. Aiden Mayeri. I'm in love with her, and I call her, and I got her name wrong. And that's the director and two actors from the movie Jackpot, a movie starring Awkwafina and John Cena, shot here in Atlanta. A movie I enjoyed. And then only this week did I go to Wikipedia because I saw Paul Fahey on After Midnight. I'm like, oh, there's I couldn't remember Taylor's name. Today I couldn't remember Aiden's name, but now today that Taylor's name. Also, I'd already Googled Taylor before. When you see a pretty face. And I went to Wikipedia. I hate seeing the reception part of movies and TV shows, but I scrolled down to it, and I saw that people didn't like it. It's just what happens when I don't pay attention to that stuff. Anyway, Jay Pharoah and Taran Killam were also on there with Marilyn Rice Cub. We had Atsuka on there, Reggie Watts. It's just a very good week. Lake Bell, James Adomian, just a very good week for the cast members, the panels on After Midnight. I think that show has really found its groove. I know it's not like a super produced. I mean, none of them are all super produced, but it took. I think I would say it took Late Night with Seth Meyers a year to find its footing. Fallon, more or less. I can only remember his because I didn't watch him I didn't watch Late Night when he was hosting Late Night, and Conan it's like all I knew was Conan and Jay, and that's pretty much it. And Letterman, but I never stayed up late enough to watch those. Anyway, so I can't speak to anybody else, but I will say that Taylor's team and her, this second season is much there. While both seasons are essentially the same, I will say that this second season is much more confident. Although this week I noticed during Taylor's monologues, which they did not do last season, but I noticed during Taylor's monologues, she's mentioned twice that she didn't want kids, or twice. And then she also repeated another joke or another premise of a joke of being single and things like that. Maybe we can get off those types of jokes. On Jimmy Kimmel Live, we're coming off of the Emmys. He hosted a show. Seth Meyers did not. Don't think I wasn't mad about that. But it's odd because obviously they had to fly back from LA to New York. But Kimmel's show this week was good. It's the same Kimmel fare. His monologues are the shining parts of that. The Guillermo back-to-back at the Emmys is not getting as much love as it usually does. But I think the red carpet stuff that Guillermo does for like the Oscars is something that's much taken care of. But a big surprise this week was George Clooney and Brad Pitt appearing in a sketch on Jimmy Kimmel Live. And then following that, Clooney was interviewed by Kimmel, obviously. And, sometimes, Oprah came out this week. Oh, yeah, Oprah came this week. That's also something that happened. Oprah came out this week, and she was not interviewed. She was just a part of a promotion or something. And but during the Clooney interview, I thought it was very interesting. Kimmel asked George about the New York Times op-ed piece that he wrote concerning Biden shouldn't be running, and how it kind of changed the tide and everything. Clooney did play it like very quietly, like almost humbly, saying like, "Oh, I didn't do this. Like we all did it." And then Kimmel kept pressing, like, "Hey, you guys did." So I thought that was a very good interview. Then there's Seth Meyers only did 3 shows this week, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, yes, because he had to come back Monday, and he had a decent set of guests. You know what I also noticed? They love Miss Pat. They have Miss Pat on like every couple of months, which is very crazy. Also, Miss Pat was nominated. I didn't know she had a show. She was her show was nominated for Best Directing, and I looked at the director's Wikipedia page, and she'd been nominated multiple times for direction, with Miss Pat's show specifically, and I just think that's so wild to me. Anyway, they had a lot of closer looks, and I mean that's pretty much it. They just basically did 3 closer looks in a row, which is fun. Here's something I want to talk about: The Daily Show. They did not have a Monday episode, so Ronny Chieng came in the rest of the week and hosted Wednesday through Thursday. And I have to say, if you are somebody who likes comedy, know what you're getting into. Not everything is going to be the Jon Stewart way of style of telling jokes. Sometimes you don't need that. There's other comedians that work on this show and that have different styles, but they have more or less, the writers are going to write in the voice of The Daily Show as well as the host for that night. And Ronny Chieng had a very funny Tuesday monologue that covered the second attempted assassination of Trump, and other political violent acts and stuff like that, rhetoric and everything like that. And it was so funny, and this audience was not having it. Like, I'm sitting here laughing at home, enjoying this monologue, but this audience was not having it. Versus if you brought Colbert out, they'd be laughing their butts off, and it just wasn't, they brought him out with his boring monologues. And it sucked because Ronnie's such a funny guy, and you could hear it in his voice that he wasn't getting defeated, but he was getting annoyed that these people were not laughing. If you think that if you're in a bad mood, don't go to a show. If you think that comedy is going to change your mood, it's not. I'll tell you that right now. It's not. Oh my God. But The Daily Show had a great week. I think so. I know so. Speaking of Colbert had another week of shows. I've said it before and I'll say it again. He is such a good interviewer when it comes to political skewing people. He spoke with, on top of having a piece with his wife, and they cooked something out of their book. Oh, that was last week. Never mind. Okay. All right. So I'm lying to myself. But when he talked to Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper and they're both great, wide skewing political, excellent interviews, and they're things that really work. They're people who know what they're talking about. Steven can cover it too. When Steven's talking about pop culture, I just think that if it's not The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings, I feel as though it's not very good. Because when you host a show on CBS, when you host a show like this on CBS that has to appeal to all the masses in the world, it also, you have to ask when you talk to Billie Eilish, yes, you're going to get all the views on television and on the internet. However, he's not going to be asking very interesting questions. You're not going to be getting very interesting answers. As opposed to Rachel Maddow and Anderson Cooper, who can come on there and talk specifically. And it's not just like political people. I'm talking about like business leaders, CEOs and stuff like that. Steven's very good at driving those. But you can't have that on a broadcast late night show all the time. I'm going to clear this notification on my phone because it always looks like I have a message from Instagram on there. I get messages, no big deal. And again, it's not to say that Steven's not funny. It's just to say that he's a much better interviewer when it comes to the people like this. The Tonight Show was very interesting this week. Jimmy is able to have somebody like Hillary Clinton on and I like Hillary, but to make them have a little bit of fun in the process, it's great. And so he also I enjoy Jimmy's monologues a lot. I don't know why. They do some of the same jokes a lot, like in the same vein that John Oliver does the same jokes as well. But you get over it. It's whatever. And he's been promoting his horror-filled nights. The Tonight Show horror, Tonightmares, excuse me. I couldn't figure out what it is, but the Tonightmares. However, the one I want to bring up, the video I want to bring up is Eva Mendes. She popped in to talk about her children's book, and they talked about Ryan Gosling and all that stuff. But it was so lovely to see her because I know she took a step back from the spotlight in order to be a mother, and I just think she's a great actress. Obviously I think she's very beautiful, but I like her a lot, and I was glad to see her. All right, let's get in to the news, to the topic of this week. A new show premiered last week on CNN called Have I Got News for You? It's a comedy quiz show that is a U.S. remake of a British show. It airs Saturdays at 9 p.m. on CNN, and I believe at 8 p.m. Bill Maher reruns from the night before air. Have I Got News for You is hosted by Amber Ruffin, Roy Wood Jr., and Michael Ian Black, and you can watch it on Max the following day. So obviously, if you're at home on Saturday night at 9 p.m. and you're watching this show, you got to fix something. Because even if I'm home at 9 p.m. on Saturday, I'm doing something at least somewhat 5% more interesting. Is watching a movie, a Lego Ninjago movie. It's a panel show. It's a game show. And at this point in time, it's weekly. And you know what? I think it's fine. I have not seen a full episode. I've only seen clips. However, this is a show that is super popular in Britain, and it's been going on since the 90s. Here's a piece from the New York Times called Politicians Get Roasted on This Beloved British Show. Can it be a U.S. hit? Written by Alex Marshall. Filled with snarky humor, the episode of the British version was typical of a show that, since launching in 1990, has skewered Britain's politicians often to their faces. Lawmakers, including former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, have been regular guests. And what an interesting time for this show to launch. You know, if it's a politically based show on a political channel, news channel, for it to launch precariously right before the election. I'm so tired, but I'm gonna power through. Also, I just saw an editor's pick New York Times article that I really want to see. I really want to read. I see 2, 3. Cool. I'll open them up, and I'm not going to talk about them. I did open them up. David D'Alessio, a professor of communication at the University of Connecticut, said it was a, quote, crazy decision to launch a show this fall when both parties were looking for opportunities to portray themselves as under attack from major news outlets. Has someone at CNN lost their mind? Okay, so I do think this show is fine to have been launched now. It's very interesting that they decided to launch it now, but I mean it's coming in at a time when late night shows, I know this is a game show, but it's coming in at a time when late night shows have returned to the air. I hit the microphone. It have returned to the air, and this is a good complement to that. This is a much better show, and it's less ill-conceived than the Gayle King and Charles Barkley show, which should not have existed in the first place. The British version of Have I Got News for You has 2 team captains, Paul Merton, a comedian, and Ian Hislop, the editor of the satirical and investigative magazine Private Eye, make wisecracks about the news with the help of guests who often include politicians or media figures. A guest host awards the points. Now, for this first episode, it was Robin Thede and oh goodness, who else was there? Robin Thede and I don't know who this is. Matt Welch. I don't know who that is. Let's Google who Matt Welch is. I assume he's some type of political commentator. He's a journalist. Libertarian political pundit. So they got a libertarian for the first episode, which is something. Truly. The British version has had people like it's in the early 2000s, it's future Prime Minister Boris Johnson. It's had a lot of politicians. The first episode of the U.S. show notably did not have any politicians. And Roy Wood Jr. said that he hoped that Nikki Haley, Ted Cruz, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, people like that would join. Roy Wood Jr. said the tone would be less righteous than political satire on late night TV. The show is set up as a game show, he said. It's serious, but let's deliver a format that has a little bit of lightness to it. And this show can work as long as they don't skew one way or another, because people on the right have said that and I'm not saying Republicans, I'm saying people who skew towards MAGA. They have said that they're tired of liberal news channels coming after them and them only, which CNN is not a liberal news channel. It might turn a little bit that way, but it's definitely not, especially its owner. It's definitely not. And also the CEO is definitely not. So let's get these facts straight at this point. And it's a tough show. It's a tough show to do, though. Like, we have to acknowledge that there's the audience for this show would be the ones who enjoyed a show like Crossfire when it was on in the early 2000s. Or Fox News's, I believe Red Eye was a show. I think Fox News Red Eye. Red Eye, yes, Red Eye. I can't believe I just pulled that show, and that's a show that would air at 3 a.m., 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, but it had a litany of different voices on, and I'm laughing because it would have like people like Scott Ackerman from Comedy Bang Bang on, but also politicians and things like that. It's because it was a talk show, more or less. But for this show to work, for How Have I Got News for You to work right now on CNN in this political climate, is that it has to dance around in that gray area and not be something that, yes, we tackle the left and the right and things of that nature, but it also just has to have a point. And I think, because I think that, CNN is looking at this and they're going to be comparing it to The Whole Story with Anderson Cooper. They're going to be comparing it to the other one-off shows that are on the platform, that on CNN platform rather, that don't fit in with the 24-hour news cycle notion that is CNN. I like the idea, and I think it's fine. It might, and to put it on a Saturday is, you're already kind of setting low expectations. I would like to see how this show would perform, maybe even on a Friday, on a Sunday at most, but a Friday would be great. Because it is more of an improv style show. If you have comedians, especially three who I don't know if Amber's an actor, but Michael's an actor, Roy is an actor. Roy does stand up. Michael has done sketch. Amber has done improv and sketch, and she writes currently for late night. Then you're not going to need, traditional writers, or a slew of traditional writers. There's going to be some sort of improv response. And I think this show can be not the, when there's breaking news on CNN, they're working with all the details they're getting at the moment in time. I can say that because I've seen so much breaking news when I was at CNN. Now, Have I Got News for You is a pre-tape show, obviously, but they're going to be talking about very important things of the week. And they have to make it interesting, and they have to make it funny. So there's that line again. There's that gray area. They can't be too harsh on any side of news, and they also have to be funny and topical. They can't retread the same thing that Fallon and Kimmel and Colbert and everybody else says. Even though those hosts more or less, I guess I'm saying more or less, even though those hosts sort of step on each other's toes all the time. Because, that's what, if, let's pretend each show has 10 writers and there's 7 shows. There's 70 people plus 5 or 6 hosts and sidekicks and all that stuff, and they're all chiming in. There's a chance that some of the jokes are going to be the same. Anyway, Have I Got News for You is congratulations on that launch, and I would love to see them. It's an hour-long show, and right now there are 2 clips up on the YouTube channel, but it says they have 12 videos, so I guess some of them are hidden. I would love to see them break up some of these clips and even promote the show. Like have a reason to have a place to promote the show. Because I feel if comedy fans get a hold of this and it's funny, then it could do gangbusters for CNN. And by gangbusters, I mean it could do well, get them a couple 100,000 views. I hope they give this show enough time to breathe and to grow in the same way that Paramount gave Viacom and my favorite basketball team, the Seattle Supersonics. I was alive when that happened. It's crazy. I was alive. Oh, God, when Atlanta lost the hockey team. I used to love going to hockey games here. And now that I live in the city, I can't go to a hockey game. Can't even go to a baseball game. Still have football and basketball, which is nice. And I guess soccer. But I do want to see this show succeed. And having a Saturday night 9 p.m. time slot means that, you'll be lucky if you get 100,000 viewers. 100,000, 200,000 viewers, and then next day streaming. So the live plus 3 day, I'll be happy if they get 500,000. But let's not put lofty expectations on this, thinking it's going to be everything they need it to be. CNN. All right, listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talk to some of your favorite famous people. If you want to see a video version of this show, head to youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where you can see me on the other podcasts as well, the Constitutionals podcast, which is the entertainment business news podcast, and LinkedIn Logs, which is the jobs podcast. Follow us on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Subscribe to those podcasts where you get your podcasts. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at @CPlusComedy. Me at Chad Black White. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.